Step into the heart of Australian agriculture with Salt of the Earth Farm Stories, hosted by Darren Grigg. Through personal, on-the-ground conversations, Darren shares the voices of farmers from all walks of life, from multi-generational family farms to trailblazers in sustainable agriculture. Each episode reveals the passion, resilience, and deep connection between people and the land, reminding us where our food comes from and who makes it possible. Be inspired by those sowing the seeds of our future.
The farm was at Lucyvale. It was a beef farm, our own sheep, until we ended up going out of sheep because of the difficulties with wild dogs.
Today, we're sitting down with someone who's become a true leader, a builder of resilience, and a guardian of her land and community. Lyn Coulston is well known in the Upper Murray, not just for her roles as mayor and chair of various organisations, but for her lifelong passion for protecting the environment and strengthening the future of rural communities. From her earliest days on the beach, witnessing destruction firsthand, to developing a large-scale nursery from scratch, Lyn's journey is a remarkable story of adaptability, service and hope. We'll hear how she supported her community through disasters, dealt with the tragedy of losing her husband during COVID, and becoming a powerful voice for land care, education and collaboration. So stay with us. This is a story about staying connected, staying strong and making a difference. Good morning, Lyn.
Hello, Darren.
Nice to have a little bit of sunshine here. A cold start to the morning with another frost, but
Beautiful now.
beautiful now. Lyn, can we go back to the start in your early life? Where were you born and what was your upbringing?
I was born in New South Wales on the Central Coast at Gosford, and my upbringing was on the coast, very close to the ocean, so a 5-minute walk. And I went to school at the Entrance Primary and then to Wyong High School.
So you were a beach girl, I can't imagine it.
Oh, can't you? Oh, I used to ride a surfboard.
Did you?
A surfboard, yeah.
Lyn.
It was pretty kind of innovative, I suppose. When would that have been? 14 to 18 or 17 when I left home. Yeah, there weren't many female board riders then. I did my leaving certificate and then left home because there was no jobs or education there. So I had to go to Sydney.
Yeah. So do you have any early memories or experiences with nature that you look back on and perhaps was a turning point for what you're doing now?
Yeah, I do. There was sand mining not far from where we lived on the coast between the Entrance and Nora Head, which was a beautiful drive then. I haven't been back there for years, so I don't know what it's like now. But it had the red gum, coastal red gum. It was beautiful. And then all of a sudden, they ripped it all out with their sand mining.
Tell me about sand mining, what's that?
Well, I don't really know. It was just that it was a big issue with the locals when they saw what destruction looked like.
Yeah.
And the big machines that were digging over the sand, it was a very long time ago, but it really registered that you can't restore things. Once you destroy them, you can't ever get that back. So they neatly smoothed out all the sand dunes and put grasses in. But there used to be, lots of coastal shrubs, and it completely changed it. It can change the whole thing. And
So this was for timber? Were they pulling the trees down for timber?
No, they just needed to they had to get it, like they had an operation going on. So a large section of the forest there between the road and the beach, and then it was the road and the lake was on the other side. So, and I honestly don't know what they got out of the sand or whether they used it. I was only a teenager. I thought, this is wrong. This is, you can't do that and you can't get it back. So if you're going to destroy things, you know that you're not going to be able to restore them to what they were. So that's just a given.
So what age were you when you left home and what was your first job?
My first job was in advertising with one of the large department stores in Sydney, Anthony Horton's.
So you worked in the big smoke?
Yeah.
Then what did you do after that?
I joined the public service.
In defence?
Oh, yes. Yeah, well, it was Army. I think they lumped them all together now, but it was the Department of the Army at that stage. So I worked at Victoria Barracks in Sydney, which is a beautiful workplace.
Was it?
Oh, yeah.
I just can't imagine you as a city girl.
That's why I enjoyed working so much at Victoria Barracks, because when you went in the gate each morning, they kept it beautifully, and there was so much of it, and historic buildings where the offices were. And at lunchtime, you could go and sit out in this. You wouldn't know that you were anywhere near the city, and it was just perfect.
Nice. Do I believe that you then went to Canberra for a little while?
Yep, went to Canberra. I'm still with the public service.
Yep.
And I didn't like that. I didn't like it at all. The buildings that you're in, you couldn't open the windows, and that was a big downer for me.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Because you went in there in the morning and it was
Yeah.
all air conditioning, and no point going out during the day at lunchtime, because by the time you got out and then you got in again, because you had to have, all your checked in, not as bad as it is now, but it wasn't worth it.
And then after that, was the Northeast calling you?
Yes, my husband at the time, he had family in the Upper Murray, and so we moved down here.
And can you tell us where we're sitting today and the environment? We're in the Upper Murray.
At Shelley, yes, which again, it's a beautiful environment here, and not everyone would agree with that, because a lot of people don't like plantation forestry and pines. I've never had any kind of argument with that. I think it's a crop. It's just like the farmers grow, wheat or barley or grass. This is just trees, and they serve a very crucial purpose in the products that are made from them.
So for our listeners, Shelley is not far from Corryong in
Yeah,
the Upper Murray.
45 k's.
Yep. In northeast Victoria.
Yep.
So you got married and had kids?
Yep, two girls.
But then did that take a turn with the marriage and then you met a local farmer?
Yes, that's right. Yes, that was 39 years ago. We were married for 37 years, and the farm was at Lucyvale. It was a beef farm and sheep, until we ended up going out of sheep about 10 years before Bob passed away, because of the difficulties with dogs, wild dogs.
Really?
Mm.
The wild dogs drove you out?
Well, that and getting older.
Yeah.
I mean, Bob couldn't, sheep are harder to manage by a long shot than cattle. We had 600 acres, and he'd have to go and round them all up in the sheep paddock and bring them down close to the house, even though we had a very good electric fence, put it in 1984, boundary fencing. So then we ended up electrifying an inner paddock as well, so he could bring the sheep down at night. But I mean, we had quite a few thousand sheep one stage, but it got worse. Like the issue got worse, and then after the 2003 fires, I think he had to turn it off, because electric fences, are bad news. It can start fires. So he turned the fence off, and 2 dogs got in. When the fence was turned on again, it was off for about 2-3 weeks. Realised that there were dogs in the paddock, because our back paddock had a lot of native veg in gullies, difficult gullies that were vegetated, and then the sheep kept getting attacked. It took ages to round up those dogs, to find them, and because they'd hear the bike coming, and then they'd buzz off somewhere else, and in the end, a whole bunch of our local neighbours, they came and they kind of formed a line where they walked right through our paddocks right out to the back, and somebody had a bike and kind of came around the back, and it drove the dogs out into the open, and they shot them.
Yep, right.
But that took ages. Like it must have been 8 months, 6 or 8 months. So we lost a lot of sheep.
So the electric fence, that was able to keep them out, was it?
Well, yes, mostly, but that was the boundary. Yeah. And of course you can't electric fence everything. Yeah. And so they thought, the dog trappers came regularly, but they thought they were coming out of the bush and across another farm and up the road. Of course, we weren't the only ones with sheep at that stage.
And we've lost Bob recently. How long ago was that?
In 2020, yes.
in the 80s. You bought a nursery, is that right?
No, we just started growing plants. It was nothing. And the reason for that was that we went down to Macedon, I think it was, where Creswick. So we went down and they gave us advice about what would be the best ones to bring up here. And we brought them up and started planting them. 90% of them died because they weren't suitable for the soil and they were frost tender.
Right, so they weren't native to this area.
No, but I didn't know that then. I mean, you just have to take the advice from the people who, you think, well, they'll know. Like, they run the place and they grow the trees. So anyway, I thought we have to find out what we've actually got here. And so I bought a book called, I think it's called Plants of Southeastern Australia or something like that, by Lyn Coulston. And I just took it and I went out in the bush and I looked all around. And when I thought that I'd found something that looked like that, I'd put a mark on it and then I'd sample a piece, take it home and really work through it to see, if I could find out what it was.
So you compare a leaf to something, a photo in the book.
A small branch with leaves and buds or leaves and fruit, gum nuts on it. And then you can key it out.
So then that made you realise that that was a local native?
Yes.
And did you start growing them here then?
Yeah. Yep.
That's how you started. So you started from scratch.
Yeah, we did start from scratch because we wanted things to plant at home. By getting that local seed and knowing that they're growing up there on the, a couple of 100 metres away, I think just about everything we put in then went well. So there's a lot of vegetation on the farm.
This evolved, didn't it? You actually went to a large scale nursery.
Well, it evolved because lots of people were asking me, like, where do you get the trees? And so I started running little sessions, showing people how to identify, same way that I did it, using that book.
And then you started selling them?
Yes, I did. So I was only growing a few. As we went on, we, started to grow more because people wanted them. And it just kind of went from there.
But then you were supplying plants for large scale land care plantings, were you?
Yeah, but not here.
Not here? Likes of the Albury-Wodonga Development Corporation?
Yes, I worked there at their nursery in West Albury at Carramar. It was a great nursery.
How does it feel when you're driving around and you see a gully full of trees that you've supplied and it's stopped erosion and there's biodiversity in there?
Yeah, and the biodiversity, you can't imagine it happening now. But yes, I do. I drive around and I think, that's the dam or the wetland where the ducks ate all, whatever it was we put in there. It was a sedge or a lomandra or something. And they put them all around there and the ducks loved them. I think it was ducks, something.
Within your nursery, are there challenges like feral animals or perhaps water?
There were. Yes, I haven't grown trees now for quite a long time, but I made the facility available to Landcare. So we order the plants based on what the works will be, and they all come in here and they can get looked after there.
So your work in environmental conservation spans more than 30 years. And what initially lit that fire for you to get involved in land management and community action?
Well, I think the initial shock of seeing what can happen to a beautiful environment was the thing that made me want to contribute to that in some way. And you realise that the more knowledge people have about how they manage their property, and it's 30 years, it's probably longer than that, but I think people are a lot more conscious of the role of, if you're talking about agriculture, the role of shade and shelter. And it's even more important now with much hotter days. You see 43-degree days and the cattle are standing out in it, and there might be one tree and they're all trying to cluster under it. It's not good for the animals. No. So therefore, it's not good for your productivity either.
Yeah. You mentioned a tree group before. I think that was around 1984. You were instrumental in starting this.
Well, I was initial member, yes.
Yeah. But it wasn't a land care group at that point,
no,
was it?
There weren't land care groups then.
And getting people involved in that initial tree group, was that hard to get people on board?
No, it wasn't, because I think people realised that there was very open landscapes here on the farmland, and cold winds in winter, frost, snow, or snow, when you get up into the Cudgegore Valley and on the lower slopes of the mountains there, that they all have adverse effects on their cattle, and then hot days.
Yeah.
And so the first thing we did was ask someone at Tintoldra if we could do a demonstration shelter belt. So he gave us a little bit of land, and
Right.
we put a few trees and things in there. And then we were working with Greening Australia for quite a lot of the things we did. They had terrific programs in those days. How much productivity you can lose, and it was all facts and figures, but it was, if there's no shelter and, the wind's at this speed or this temperature or is this hot, how it does affect your productivity and also the growth of the pasture. So that's going back a long time.
Do you think in the mid-80s that perhaps the awareness of, or the benefits of shelter belts and biodiversity on farms, there was becoming more awareness of
It
that?
absolutely was, yeah.
Because I guess
Absolutely.
50 years before that or 100 years before that, it was all about taking trees down to clear
That's
land.
right, yes, because they took up space, which meant that you had less land for the cattle to graze or the sheep.
Lyn, you've played a central role in bringing people together, farmers, agencies, government. What's the secret to getting such a diverse group of people working towards a common goal?
They need to believe that it's in their own interest. And if it's going to help you on your farm do something better, then people want to know how. So how can we improve our soil? How can we make sure that our stock have protection from wind and rain and heat? I think it's how can we do that sustainably, and what's in it for us if we do give over that hectare or something to putting in a shelter belt or whatever. And it's got to be a mutual benefit, but then also understand that the more people that do it, it's a collective benefit.
Yeah.
Because when you look at Tintoldra now, and unfortunately, yes, it was badly affected by the fire. Some of the stuff that was done there with Greening Australia, and one was called Corridors of Green. And that Corridors of Green, the landscape at Tintoldra changed dramatically, and you can see it clearly. Where are all the cattle? Well, have a look under those trees. Black cattle under the shade. The paddock looks empty, but it's actually got a lot of cattle in it. And where they are, that was 2:00 on an afternoon in November, just before the fires. And Sandy Hill
Yes.
was a farmer that owned that paddock. And we said to Sandy, well, where are the stock? He said, well, look closely at that shelter belt. And sure enough, in the shade under there, you could see the black cattle all resting there in the shade. And it was a good demonstration. Just about every landholder in Tintoldra signed onto that.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Well done. Now, we're only touching on the surface with your community involvement, Lyn. You were mayor of Tauranga Shire in the early 2000s.
Yep.
And around this time, there was another drought.
There was.
Your goal was to try and get funding to assist landholders. Can you tell me about that?
Back then, when I was the mayor, I was still involved in Landcare, of course. So I used to go to Landcare meetings at Burrawee. They were just talking about how hard it is to get feed, and I was kind of thinking, well, where can we go? And I'd say, well, we've tried here, tried there, and I said, oh, look, things are really bad down here. So we made a few inquiries around other farmers, and it was terrible. And the autumn break didn't come. And so there were probably more cattle on farms, and they're getting in very poor condition. And it was just quite urgent that something be done. So the council, and through the state government, and asked if they could come up, because we weren't drought declared. And anyway, they got here in July, and then we got to Baringamar. It was snowing probably all the way nearly to the bottom, and then it was this sleety rain. and there were, dead cattle in the paddocks. Oh, it was. We went over to Cudgewar and we met in a farmer's shearing shed. What we were looking for was, in our naivety, subsidies for or fodder or something. We soon realised that that wasn't what they were going to be offering, and they were offering support individually for farmers. So they put an incident control centre in Corryong in the Shire office.
And they declared it drought at that point?
Yes, because, well, if not then, soon after. Once you were drought declared, you could access exceptional circumstances payments through the federal government, through Centrelink.
Did you enjoy being mayor?
I did, yes, very much.
Would have been hectic?
Very hectic, and it was hectic, more hectic than it should have been because of the fires and drought.
Yeah.
And trying to accommodate everybody's concerns and make sure people were supported as much as you could within the framework that you have to work in.
Now, the Victorian Blackberry Task Force started in 2005, and it's a huge part of your legacy. Why was tackling weeds like blackberry such a priority, and what kind of impact have you seen from that work?
If we go back a step from the Victorian Blackberry Task Force, after the fires and drought in early 2005, we asked people from DECA, from parks, farmers, so that we had a good representation. And we asked the CMA to facilitate a session on what could we do to improve the blackberry control, because we were getting overrun and people were ringing us all the time because they didn't know what else to do, like about roadsides and boundaries with public land. So we had that facilitated session and it came out with a few things. And one was, well, we could think about a community program, but it wouldn't be land care because we'd been around for ages. And anyone who wasn't a member of land care or wasn't controlling their blackberries at the urging of land care were unlikely to change. So we came up with the North East Blackberry Action Group and then a list of actions that how could we get some funding? So we had someone from the council there. So there was a grant coming up there through the state government called Tackling Weeds on Private Land. Anyway, we applied for that and we got that. That was $25,000. And so we put on a project officer to go and talk. So we started at Burrawee, then we went to Walwa. The next year was Country War. So it took 3 years to get around the Upper Murray. Its physical and financial capacity is probably the main thing, not just blackberry, but other weeds that you've got. And the physical capacity was because many of the farmers were older and unable to do what they used to do, like drag the hoses around, steep hills.
It's not easy terrain.
Yeah, and you know what the terrain's like here. And the blackberries love the areas that are underutilised. So, if you're grazing, you don't actually have much good quality fodder on the higher slopes. You've got your improved pastures, but a lot of those steep hills they're not good quality fodder.
So the local community got on board with the North East Blackberry Action Group, but then you took it further than that,
Yes,
didn't you? You
that's
took
right.
it to the state.
Because the other thing at the workshop that we did with the CMA was where can we get some other funding? So the Victorian Blackberry Task Force was a thing. We found that somewhere. It's in recess. It's been in recess for several years. So I went down to Atwood, where, of course, it's in the middle of nowhere. And they're saying, well, it's not active. And I said, well, can you reactivate it? And they said, if you can are you happy to take on the chair? And I said, well, I suppose I need to know a bit more about it. Anyway, we had great support from DPI at that stage. So we became the third community pest management group. And so we started recruiting.
It's got quite big now, and VBT is right around the state, and they've done a lot of incredible work from all corners of the state, really.
But it's only a tool. It's a tool to engage because people are passionate about it. And I think the people on the task force are. because it's a serious threat
Mm.
to productivity, but that's more easily solved than the threat it is to biodiversity and our natural environment.
Yeah. I want to get back to blackberry soon, but talking about you being the chair for VBT, you also became a board member for North East Catchment Management Authority in 2001, and then in 2011 you were
Yep.
nominated as
As
chair.
the chair, yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
You steered major environmental work across the North East, and that was an important role. How did you enjoy that?
I loved it. I loved it because, and I enjoyed being a councillor and a mayor, but the difference in the structure meant that you felt you were achieving a lot on the CMA,
Yeah.
because we were doing things that you knew would benefit the community and give them knowledge to be able to manage their land better. It seemed to be something that was enduring. No matter how many people, attended things and learnt things, they don't all go on to implement. It was very enjoyable, and the issues that we were dealing with were environmental.
Yeah, and important ones too. And there's a lot of different projects
Yep.
that CMA are involved in now and doing an amazing job. What leadership lessons have stuck with you most from that time?
Well, I think you need to listen to people. I went and did the training with the International Organisation for Community Engagement, Public Participation.
Did you?
So I did the week-long course that gave me the certificate in that, and then a couple of others with conflict resolution and stuff, to try and better understand like how all these things come together and you can engage with people. So you engage with them on their terms and clearly state no subterfuge what are you there for.
Yeah.
So with our blackberry group here, it was very clear that there's a lot of angst in the community about the amount of blackberries we've got on farm and on our roadsides and on public land. And so that's why all the people who were on that initial, all those agencies and local farmers are still on it. Oh, not the same people, but you've done work with that group, and why would they keep coming back 3 times a year for 20 years?
That's right.
If because they can see the benefits, not only for their own organisation or enterprise, but for the wider community, because we all know with blackberry that it's increasing in area, and the wetter summers make it even, it tripled in size, even just around here. And so I think from a leadership point of view, it's got to be genuine engagement with people, not just superficial.
Yeah, and it gives them ownership too, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
So around 20 years ago, you started Upper Murray Landcare Network.
Yes, we did. We decided our groups needed an overarching organisation. So yes, we did do that.
And you've got some pretty good landholders within this network too, haven't you?
Yeah.
And an amazing guy, your president, Tony Jarvis.
Tony, yes.
He's been instrumental.
Yes, Tony's been in there, right? He's Cudgewar Landcare Group and has been since, I don't know when they started, but a long, long time ago. And they've done some great projects down there, and still are. We've been fortunate in the people who've stepped up to office bearer example, or just turned up, 4 times a year to see, well, where are we going? What are we doing next, sort of thing.
So we've talked about various organisations that you've led and been involved in. And I must say, I've been lucky enough to be involved in these organisations through my video production work too, which is, I feel so privileged. But another one, around 10 years ago, you helped start VRAN, and VRAN is the Victorian Rabbit Action Network.
That's right. Yep.
Can you tell me about VRAN?
Yes, VRAN started as another community pest management group, and I was one of the initial members of that group. And of course, they're the only pest animal group. The others are all weeds. They've got some really innovative projects. They're boot camps where they get people, say 10, 15 people come, and that goes on for several days. All things rabbit, like how to manage big rabbit infestation, like out in the Western Districts where you've got big machinery that rips burrows and how to do it properly so you don't get reinfestation and digging out burrows and things, and working with communities the same as we do, like little communities, say, and a lot of them are urban or peri-urban, because rabbits aren't just a problem for the croppers out in the west.
That's right. It's another community thing, isn't it, where rabbits don't have any boundaries.
No, that's right.
That's an amazing organisation, actually, VRAN. There's some really passionate people involved and doing some incredible things. Now, Lyn, 2020 fires were horrific, and you've done a lot of work to help recover from these fires.
Yes, we have. Yep.
How have you been involved?
Well, after the 2003 fires, it was a very difficult job to contact farmers because the council didn't distinguish on their rate base, well, who are farmers and who lives in Corryong or Tallangatta or wherever. DECA, the current DECA, they spent weeks trying to work out, like, where could they send notices? Who were they sending notices to, and who were the people in the valleys? And it took a long time because there was no connections from the council or anyone really. So after a couple of weeks, and I don't know how they did it, they came up with roughly contacts for farmers we needed to get in touch with. There was a big gap in how you connect with people. Now, we had connection through Landcare, but we didn't have enough. We said the North East Blackberry Action Group is a new organisation, and we're sending out letters to people to ask them would they like a visit. So for all the people who say yes, we now have a connection.
Yep.
And it starts off as being a connection with Blackberry, but then and we've had very good project managers running this who understand it's about Blackberry. When you go out there, don't mention revegetating that gully or putting some shelter in. No. After a couple of years, you just remind people that there is other assistance if you decided at any time you want to do something else on your farm. Then people started saying, you said there might be some funding to fence off that wetland or put
Some erosion
fix
or
up that gully. And so through the Blackberry program, we actually engaged with a lot of people who weren't land care engagers. But through the Blackberry program, it was possible to actually work with them, and some of them are still on the Blackberry program, but they don't have many blackberries until the fires. Now they're all back again, of course. So that's another lesson, that you can't solve a problem like that. You only put it on hold until the next disaster. And so all that bare ground, they're blackberries like you've never seen before. We had a big reduction from 2006 to 2014, 15, because it's all mapped at the beginning. And then we did a remapping of all the properties of their blackberry still existing. Thousands of hectares that had been treated over that time, 10 years, I guess, about 10 years. But you have those fires and the seed bank just explodes.
This would have been a devastating time for these landholders, losing buildings, stock, fences, and would have taken its toll. How are they doing now, this community?
Well, I think the recovery has been very good. People want to be involved. They want to be doing work over the last, say, four years, trying to get things back on track. From the mental health side, you'd have no clue about how people are feeling, just that they're participating, they're joining the soils group, but there'll be plenty of people who aren't. And I think the drought that we now have has knocked people about.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been 3 disasters. We had the fires and then the devastating floods. That just set everybody back again, and they hadn't even had a chance to put their fences back up, a lot of them, or restock or anything. And then they're trying to get pumps out of the river that had been devastated or washed away. And yes, it was a bad time. And now we've got this. So it's, you just wonder what the next thing is. But we're supporting because that 2003 experience,
Yeah. Drought.
told us, be ready for the next one,
Yeah.
even if the farmers aren't ready.
Mm.
But a lot of them are, which is different to what it was then.
This is when coming back to community is important, isn't it?
Yep, and get that connection.
Well, Lyn, I honestly don't know how you keep up. How do you find the time?
Oh, I don't know. I don't sleep much, and I sleep 6 hours, which has always been fine.
Is that all?
And I sleep like a log for 6 hours, and I wake up in the same position that I went to sleep in, and so whatever time I go to bed, I'll wake up 6 hours later. So
Talking about time then, what is your time management like? Are you always early to meetings?
no, I'm never early to meetings. It's a it's a bane of my life. Getting in that car, because there are no very few meetings at Shelley. You're not going to walk out the door and, 5 minutes, unless there's a meeting here at the camp. You're not going to walk out the door and be in a meeting 10 minutes later. It's a drive to Wodonga or further afield, or it's a drive to Albury to catch a train to go to Melbourne for, say, VBT meetings. And I'm also a member of the Victorian Invasive Pests Advisory Group.
Are you? All right.
Yes. And so that's called Viper.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we meet 4 times a year, and the VBT meets 4 times a year. So those meetings are in Melbourne. So no, I'm not early to meetings. It only takes an hour to get to Wodonga. And then I was thinking, I was sitting there behind 2 log trucks the other day. No, it doesn't. It takes an hour and a half, all depending on
Yeah.
when you drive out that gate,
Yeah.
what are you going to come up against, over the hill?
Yeah. I've been ringing around trying to do a bit of research on you and to get a bit of dirt on you, and that's the only thing that I could come up with was perhaps a little bit late to meetings.
Oh, yes, yeah, sometimes a little bit. And I don't know, I've tried everything, like putting my clock half an hour fast, but then I know it's half an hour fast, so that doesn't help.
What are the biggest challenges today, such as invasive species or even water quality?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is that none of those things get recognition in an appropriate way, where governments are saying, these are big challenges and we have to adequately resource responses to them.
Yeah.
Because we're losing species,
Yeah.
one after the other. Blackberry, which is a hugely invasive weed, you're going to lose a lot more species. There's no recognition of that.
Yeah.
And that is the biggest challenge for people, whether they're farmers or, because it's all our land. The community this all belongs to us. And we've been let down by the so-called public land managers who have no control over what they have funding for, because they have been let down by the government with not adequate resources for what they are given to manage. That's the biggest challenge in how to deal with invasive species. Deer aren't even an invasive species, so they're a huge issue too.
What do you think is the answer one day? Biological control?
Yes.
For blackberries in particular?
Yep.
Yeah.
For a lot of things.
I think we found the answer in Portugal or somewhere. It's the weevil and the larvae that gets into the heart of the blackberry, but we just can't bring it out to Australia yet without all the research being done. Do you know about that?
Oh, yes, but that's not the first time. This is about the third lot that we've been through. Purple blotch disease was the one before that. That's a fungus. And we've got a terrific submission, but we've given to the government twice. It's been put together by one of our scientists who sits on the VBT. They funded it. The state and federal government cut the funding for that research in 2012. And ever since then, the VBT's been even at federal level, because for some strange reason, blackberry comes under agriculture portfolio, and both federal and state, which is crazy, because if you're talking about biodiversity on farms, you're talking about all the public land we have, it needs to come under the environment.
Is it because they won't put the money towards the research to make sure that we're not going to hurt? If we brought a biological control into Australia.
Oh, yes, that's got to be done properly, but they need to invest in it.
Yeah, there's that little block there, isn't there?
Oh, it's a big block.
Yeah.
you keep thinking, well, someone's going to see the light sooner or later and say, we're not going to spray our way out of this or shoot our way out of it as far as deer are concerned, or trap our way out of it. There's got to be a further solution. And biological control doesn't kill things usually because it doesn't kill its host, in other words.
Okay.
And because we've got effective biocontrols for blackberry, but they bring the biomass down.
Yep.
And if we didn't have it, there'd be a lot more blackberry. One guy from Melbourne Uni, he said, you know, if we had 5 million over 2 years, we could pretty much get rid of rabbits. But you do all your testing of it, like on an island, you don't do it here.
Yeah.
But what happens if you take all those out? You know, they've got predators that are going to be predators on something else that you want to keep.
A random question, but do we bring the dingo back?
Could we? Well, it's already here. Well, yes, but again, you've got that tension between farmers and not seeing that as a threat and all the other, you know, benefits that might accrue to having that as a predator. And maybe, you know, you have buffer zones around, I don't know. None of these things are easy to answer, but there are ways of doing it, and making blackberry infertile, so the seeds don't produce other blackberries, but the bushes remain, is one potential way of going about that. There's lots of things that could be explored, but governments don't have the foresight to do that. You know, they just don't.
No.
And so it's going to come back to the community to kick that off.
Yeah. Lyn, you talk about nurture, respect, protect. That's a nice way of thinking. How do you keep that mindset alive when it feels like the odds are stacked against you? Fires, floods, invasive species. How do you keep that mindset alive?
Well, for me personally, I think you have to be resilient enough to cope as things come up. You know you're going to get bushfires, it's just a matter of when. So you're thinking that could start any time. So I suppose you just have to think we need to look after the land. And to do that, you need to respect it and treat it well. So, and it doesn't matter whether you've got a backyard or a couple of acres or, you know, 1,000. If you look at it that way, that, well, we're not going to flog it, in other words. We're going to respect the land, and if we're not going to overstock it, we just need to have that mindset that we've got to look after this. Now, you can't do anything about natural disasters, except you can recognise what causes them. You can cope with a disaster. We're coping with 3 here, in 3 in 5 years.
Yeah.
But we're not to the stage yet where we're saying we're going to get more of these. And why are we debating about climate change? Why are we having people in government who are still saying there's nothing in it?
Yeah. Lyn, you've received major recognition, an OAM, a Joan Kerner Award, and now you're on the North East CMA honour roll. How did it feel to have your work acknowledged in that way?
Oh, look, it's very humbling. I suppose that's the best word, because you don't think about anything that you're doing as being anything particularly special. There's plenty of people who want to see the same things that I want to see, and whether, you know, they're contributing in a small way or they're trying to speak to other people in the hope that they will do the, you know, look at the landscape and how you can keep it in good condition. And you know, that takes, it's been hard. It's been hard for me over the last 5 years with all the things that have happened in, you know, to us, and, you know, losing Bob right at the beginning of COVID.
That's right.
Not with COVID, but, you know, you think about it now and it just seems like how did we get through it? You know, because we just gone into lockdown and I couldn't even get into the hospital. I followed the ambulance down and I couldn't go in.
Really?
Yep. So I can't, that was Saturday night. So I left his bag with the nurse and came home. And then I rang up the next day and they said, don't come today because we're doing tests. So I was able to go in on Monday. But you think, what's happening? Like, normally you just go in and you know, you can go in outpatients, or you can, you know, go into the ward. And the funeral was the same. Like, it's all kind of upsetting things that you think have always been the same, and all of a sudden you can't do it. You know, I only had 10 people, and it was a graveside service. I mean, and this is right at the beginning of COVID. Even the funeral director wasn't sure what he was allowed to do or not do.
Yeah, it was
And
very
it
uncertain.
it was awful.
Did you get to say goodbye to Bob?
Just. And, you know, then subsequently, like you're reading in the paper, that, you know, there's nursing homes full of people who their loved ones couldn't even get in to say goodbye to them. And but I'm not saying that, you know, we weren't any worse off than anyone else, but it was just a shock because it was so soon, end of March, and that's just when lockdown came in. 2020 was a bad year.
Absolutely. And you've been a strong advocate for recognising the role of women in environmental management.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, you know, I've come across some wonderful role models for me. So you think, well, if you can do anything to encourage or influence young women or women, any women, to step up and be involved in, they want to see a better environment or improve their property, farm, then put your hand up for the board, or, you know, put your hand up for council.
Yeah.
And influence.
Fantastic. Now, Lyn, we're up to the fun part.
Oh,
These are the off-the-wall questions,
okay.
and these are just very short answers, and you can answer as many as you like. First one, if you could have dinner with any 2 or 3 people in the world, they could be alive or passed on, who would you invite?
Richard Feynman.
Tell me about Richard.
Oh, he is a scientist, and he was a fascinating character, American.
Right.
And he was involved in the Manhattan Project, which was the development of the atomic bomb. You know, he was a bongo drummer. He was a safe cracker. He was just amazing. And if you want to know about him, I've got all his books. And he passed away. And
Yeah.
I thought, bugger it. Like,
Ah.
I'll never, ever get to meet.
And who else would be at the dinner table?
Well, Oliver Sacks. He was a doctor. He was a thinker. And he wrote some, again, great books. He had a lot of, I don't know, good ideas and a lot of integrity. And the other one, and I have actually met him, is John Ralston Saul.
Yes.
Who's, again, an American philosopher. And, you know, has some very interesting books about the way we live and how we not accepting things. How don't just accept what you're told. Always have doubt. And I think that's the best advice I've ever had. Always doubt.
Right.
You know, never just accept things at face value.
Yeah.
So and I did have a conversation with him, a short one. He was at the Writers' Festival about 10 years ago in Melbourne.
Oh, good on you.
Yeah, so that might have been 5 minutes, but it was a short conversation, but very good.
Nice memory.
Yeah.
Do you have a favourite tree, plant, or a weed that people might be surprised to hear that you have a soft spot for?
Well, I don't know about the second part.
The weed.
But I do. I have some favourite trees, and the non-native ones. One's a dogwood.
Oh yeah, I've got one of those at home.
With the pink flowers. And for the native trees, I love spotted gum.
Lyn, what's something people might not guess about you? Any hidden hobbies or skills we wouldn't expect from an environmental leader?
Oh. Well, I enjoy photography, but you might expect that. And photographing fungi I've got lots of photographs of fungi.
Ah, interesting.
And going back many years to probably the 90s, I'd photograph them. And then if there was more than one, I'd pick it and I put it in an egg carton, a half, and I might have two or three. And Comet, I'd give it to Comet, and they would take it to the Botanic Gardens in Melbourne, and there's a mycologist, he's still there, called Tom May, and he would identify them, and then he would write, you know, this is a whatever it is. I've still got the stuff he used to write back. It's a this, it's a that, which meant that I knew exactly, so I'd put that name on the photo, and I know exactly what
Ah,
what we had around here.
fungi.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it was very. I bet they wouldn't do that now.
No. If you could magically solve one environmental problem overnight, what would it be?
Blackberry
Right, I was thinking you might have said that. What's your favourite tool at home?
secateurs.
Secateurs.
Yes, that's what I use all the time,
What time of the day do you get your best work done?
from late morning until midnight.
Right. And then you have your 6
Well, I
hours
mean,
sleep.
I'm up before that, but I've always have, you've got the
Yeah.
routine things.
Yeah.
And I remember I was doing an assignment at Charles Sturt, 3 a.m. I had all the pages I'd printed out, that was there, and then that bit and that bit, and there was a knock at the door. Thought, who's knocking at the door at 3 a.m.? Anyway, I went to the door, and there was this fellow there who'd just rolled his car and got out of it, and it was about half a mile down the road, and he was in shock. And I said, come on in, sit down, make you a cup of tea, and then we'll think about where do we go from here. But I said to the kids, if I hadn't been doing that assignment in the middle of the night, I never would have heard him knocking.
Yeah.
So I don't have a doorbell or anything. So to photograph luminous fungi, you have to, it's a 5-hour exposure. I spend a lot of time out looking for fungi and setting the camera, and then going down the road where you can actually have a light of some sort, and reading a book, or having a coffee, or
Really? So it
having a
takes
walk.
5 hours to get that image?
Usually 4 to 5. Taking a photo with a digital camera, I don't think I'd even know how to do that.
Are you still using film?
Yeah.
Are you?
Hmm.
And taking it into town to get developed?
No, there hasn't been anything, but I would, yes, if I could find anything, any luminous ones, I would, yep.
And if you could give your 18-year-old self some advice, what would you say?
Think harder about what you really want to do with your life. Look, I'm not sure that the 18-year-old would take any notice. Because it's all went very well in hindsight, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
If you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be?
That's tough.
Community, trees, blackberry?
I think there's a lot of legacy. Yes, I think the effort and relationships, they're the most important thing in the world. Is we have such wonderful people, that I come in contact with, that you can rely on, you can trust, they can do the same with me, and all that working together. But you have to have a facilitator.
Then the last question, and I always finish on this one. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
The Shetland Islands.
Where is the Shetland Island?
Scotland. Like, it's in the North Sea. I've just got a real, you feel a connection. It's remote, it's windswept, it's everything that you think would be horrible. But I just think whenever I'm reading about it, I'd like to go there and maybe not live there forever, but then forever's not far away for me.
No, you're still young, Lyn.
Yes.
Lyn, it's enormous what you are doing and what you've done, what you've achieved for our community and the whole state, really. So thank you so much on behalf of the community, but also thank you so much for this chat today. I've loved it.
Yes, and I've loved it too, Darren, and thank you for approaching me. It's not something that I would have ever thought anybody would want to hear.
Thank you, Lyn.
Okay, thanks, Darren.
Thanks for listening. Lyn Coulston, a woman who shows us what true resilience looks like. From conserving land and battling pests to strengthening her community through tough times. Lyn's life is a powerful reminder that we all have a role to play in protecting the future of our land and people. If you liked this episode, please follow, share, or leave us a review. It really helps us bring more stories like Lyn's to light. Until next time, keep your hands dirty and your spirits high.